for each one. This one, the first one we'll start with, I think it's an interesting one. It says, from Anne, if you could give us all a one-word piece of advice for our own science storytelling, what would it be? And P.S., thanks for showing us how sexy science is. I don't think that referred to your shirt, but it's okay. One, that we can probably do. One word, I guess we can go across, or if you want. Well, you don't have to be everyone. Anyone want to give a one-word piece of advice? Yes, go ahead.
Algebra. Learn algebra.
Ooh.
I got one word.
Yep.
I got one word. That one word is ambition. That is something not encoded by any practicing exam in the school system. Yet, in fact, if you look at the most successful people there ever were, they are not the ones necessarily who got straight A's. Those are the ones who had ambition, which overrides it all.
Yeah, okay. I agree. It's a long word, but it's a good one. I would say passion. I think, in the terms of storytelling, too many people, we said this last night too, too many people, I think, are afraid to inject their own story or their own passion when they're talking about it as science. But if you don't talk about what you're interested in, no one else is going to be interested in it.
Empathize.
What?
Empathize, because the best people, the best teachers of science and the best writers about science are the ones who can empathize with people who don't quite get it yet.
I was going to say the same thing.
Anyone else want to throw anything? You've been jumping ahead? No?
I would just say... Richard. Yeah.
What?
I was going to say emphasizing exactly for the same reason, but I'll say instead poetry then.
Poetry. Excellent. Anyone?
I would just say that you should be able to tell it so that your mother can understand it.
Hey, that's good. My mother never listens, but it's okay.
And if your mother's a theoretical physicist?
yeah, that's right.
She should tell you that.
All right, fine. Thanks.
Okay, here's one that's actually a little bit related to what Neil was just talking about, but I think we can expand on it. Anita says, I've always wanted to be an astronautical engineer, but I am horrible at math, but I've got lots of passion. Can this dream ever be a reality, and where do I start? So it's an interesting, I guess I'll start with that. I mean, I think, as Bill said, math is the language of science, and I think you have to be able to be adept at it.
Math is the language of the universe.
Yes, you're right. I agree with you.
Brian?
I agree, but let me just finish, and then we can. Too many people think that you have to be a mathematical wizard to be even a physicist. I mean, much less an engineer. It takes all types. I know people who've won the Nobel Prize. I know people. You don't have to be the best mathematician in your class. You don't have to be a whiz. It takes all types to do science, and any stereotype just doesn't work. If you're interested, do it.
What's that have to do with you knowing Nobel laureates?
Who were not the best in their class.
Oh, fine, thank you. Okay.
Who weren't necessarily even that strong in math.
Okay.
But the other thing, I'll just say, you say you're bad at math. I bet you're not that bad. And I just want to remind you that when it comes to math, there's no substitute for practice. It sucked for me. It sucks for everyone. You just have to practice. So when you come to me and say, I'm bad at math, I am open-minded, of course, but skeptical. I'll bet you can do it, whoever you are.
That's an important point. We were talking about it last night, too, and it touches on what you said. I like science museums often because they show science as fun, but science is hard work, like anything, to do, like music, like anything else, to do it well. And it takes a lot of work. So and if you don't enjoy it, you can't do the work. But just enjoyment alone isn't enough. You've really got to be willing to work at it.
I think what's really going on here is people presume that in order to be good at, they presume that if the math is not coming easy, that therefore you'll never learn it. And I meant it literally, that math is the language of the universe. And it's like any other language, especially a language that does not share the Roman alphabet. So, for example, if you wanted to study Chinese, it looks completely intractable at first.
It looks like Greek.
Exactly. And you can ask the question, how long does it take one to become fluent in Chinese if you're not Chinese yourself? And so it can take years, 5 years, almost 10 years if you never go to China. You go to China maybe 5 years of intensive exposure, and you've never done that with math. Imagine that level of exposure to math, what kind of fluency you would have at the other end of that pipeline. So at least give yourself the opportunity that any person learning a foreign language would give themselves before you turn around and say you're not good at math.
Brian,
Get me started.
yeah, you don't want to get him started. I know that from experience. You're a professor of math as well as physics, probably the only one on the table.
Yeah, and the question that comes to mind for me is, how do you know that math is the language of the universe?
I was going to say, what about the multi?
The universe told me.
Pretty good first approximation, I'll tell you.
No,
Okay,
but
we're now
let's see,
doing
but
science
before
by
you go,
revelation,
Lawrence,
but-
before you go, I'm
yeah.
just wondering, because I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that one day far in the future we encounter some alien civilization and they say, hey, show us what you've done to understand the universe, and we bring out our math books with all our theorems in physics, and they turn to them and say, math, we tried that. Yeah, it takes you just so far. And the real way to do it is like this.
I would say that whatever that real way is
Well,
not
it depends.
manifest to us at this moment. And until that day happens, where an alien tells us how backwards we are, all I can say is that the math that we did invent out of our human brain, as you surely know, Eugene Wigner said, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in describing the universe, the fact that it works at all is sufficient enough for me.
But here I want to have a note.
got
here.
it.
And just because you still can't figure
Just
out
'cause
your
you're bigger.
string theory,
Back in your
don't come to
corner. Get
crying to
back
me.
Back in.
Don't come crying to me because you can't figure it out.
No, in fact,